Am scotocit printre toate amintirile strânse până acum, le-am socotit de 10 ori, am analizat argumentele și mi-am dat seama că cel mai frumos loc de pe pământ are un singur nume: Maldive. Fiecare bănuț merită să fie cheltuit pe aceste insule, pentru că doar aici simți că ai fost teleportat într-o ilustrată ce descrie un paradis tropical. Bijuteria Oceanului Indian a devenit faimoasă, în primul rând, datorită plajelor sale, incredibil de frumoase, diversității uimitoare a vieții subacvatice, dar și a resorturilor cu servicii de top. Mă grăbesc să pătrund în această lume unică, înainte ca primele insule să fie acoperite de apă din cauza încălzirii globale. Riscul de scufundare continuă să fie o reală problemă în Maldive, semnalat pentru prima dată în 2009 de fostul președinte al țării, care a ținut o ședință de guvern sub apă, la birourile amenajate în adâncuri și purtând echipamente de scuba. În Maldive mi-am împărțit fiecare zi între tărâmul soarelui și al naturii luxuriante și lumea adâncurilor, încercând să descoper care dintre cele două este mai surprinzătoare. Și am ales să cunosc îndeaproape viața subacvatică. Recunosc că am avut noroc, am întâlnit un cuplu extrem de volubil, gata să ne împărtășească experiențele pe care le-a trăit aici. În afara harului cu care povestesc, Laura și Filip sunt și unii dintre cei mai căutați instructori de scuba diving din zonă.
My name is Laura Kazimierska. I'm Polish and I've been a dive professional for over 10 years and now I'm a base leader in the Maldives.
Hi, I'm Philip Renaud. I'm a base leader in Kurumati at Razlu Divers Dive Center in the Maldives, and I've decided to basically take a break from my chemical engineering career, and I've been a scuba instructor for the past 2 years.
Why Maldives? Because Maldives is one of the best places to dive in the world. They have beautiful reefs and amazing shark population, so that was always on the top of my list. I lived for over almost 10 years in Indonesia, so I was diving there for a really long time. And while I was living there, I also explored other places in Southeast Asia, like Philippines. I was diving in Mexico as well, and Malta, but mostly around Indonesia in a lot of different places. It's not too difficult to be a diver. Do you think it's difficult to be a diver?
No, it's definitely relatively easy to become a diver, as long as you know how to swim and if you're comfortable in the water. Access, or at least having access to a course is definitely possible in any country. Even if you're in a country that doesn't have that much dive spots, you can still learn how to dive. And then once you're traveling around in different countries where there is a lot more diving, well, in that case you can finish your course, and it's definitely a lot of fun.
Indienii, cei care au colonizat insulele, nu au găsit în acest loc nicio formă de conducere, ci doar un grup numeros care venera apa și soarele. Pe parcursul anilor, locuitorii insulelor au înțeles că frumusețile cu care au fost dăruiți de natură pot aduce vizitatori din toată lumea. Astfel, de mai bine de 50 de ani, turismul a devenit principala preocupare a localnicilor. Cu peste 1000 de insule de corali, singurul restaurant subacvatic din lume și plaje idilice care inspiră fundaluri de desktop, Maldive are toate motivele din lume să se afle în top 3 al destinațiilor la nivel mondial. Anul trecut s-a înregistrat un număr record de vizitatori, aproape 2 milioane de persoane vizitând această țară.
So why Maldives are actually so good to dive? Well, first of all, Maldives is a huge protected area for sharks. So this is of course what you can see here, and this is why people travel so far. You can see amazing shark population, and even when you just arrive to the island, you can see little baby sharks swimming in the shallow water, and then when you go on a dive, you see a variety of them as well. Now, you probably might wonder, are the sharks dangerous or not? Are they going to attack me when I'm snorkeling? Absolutely not. So they're reef sharks, they mind their own business, and of course they don't want to be harassed or touched or chased, but they will leave you alone and you can just enjoy their company while you snorkel. Now, while the reef here are so amazing, it's because of how the atolls were formed. There is a lot of limestone, there is a lot of coral, and because those islands are not, or were not so dived, and they are protected from fishing as well, and destructive way of fishing, you can see amazing corals here.
There's also a lot of different types of currents. There's a lot of circulation of water, and that obviously, fish are attracted to currents just because they like to feed around it, and they like to swim with the current, and obviously this makes the diving also very amazing.
Ce am simțit că diferențiază aceste insule de alte destinații exotice? Cu siguranță frumusețea apelor și abundența vieții marine. Maldive a devenit paradisul pasionaților de snorkeling și scufundări, oferind oportunități unice de explorare a recifelor de corali. În interiorul lagunelor, stâncile se ridică din adâncuri pentru a străpunge suprafața apei. În canalele săpate de apă există trecători, peșteri și subplombe, împodobite cu bureți colorați și multe nevertebrate. Iar dacă vrei ca fericirea să fie completă atunci când pornești să vizitezi insulele, nu-ți uita acasă aparatul de fotografiat subacvatic sau măcar un telefon cu o cameră performantă, capabil să surprindă numărul mare de vietăți marine.
There is a lot of diversity as well, so you can have wall dives, the depths are really, really great, so it brings a lot of cool water into the shallow reefs, which again brings a lot of life. You can also have underwater mountains, and here they're called tilas, and that's a different type of diving when also current operates completely different on that type of topography that brings a lot of nutrients for the fish, and if you have a lot of fish, then obviously you have a lot of shark and a lot of diversity as well. So we have soft corals, we have hard corals, and it's all really lovely preserved, and that's what makes it paradise for divers.
When you're underwater, it's completely silent, or at least you can just hear bubbles and just like small ocean noise, but you're with your buddy and you're just completely silent and just enjoying the moment, just focusing on your breathing, focusing on the environment around you, focusing on the fish or the wrecks or whatever you're seeing around you, and it's absolutely mind-blowing. And just, having that experience of being weightless underwater is just incredible. So, you can definitely just do diving for meditation purposes, or just exploring different areas, or just having fun with your partner or your family, or there's many purposes of diving, but it's obviously an amazing experience for anyone.
When I wasn't so much in tune with the ocean and I wouldn't spend there so much time, I wouldn't think, okay, I'm gonna throw out something here, where is it gonna end up? So I would never think about it. I would just throw it here and it's gonna disappear somewhere. But when you are in the ocean, you know that actually it's not gonna disappear. At some point it's gonna end up there. Everything at some point is going to end up in the ocean, and as a diver it makes you so much more aware of that. You also see the change so quickly, which I think on land you don't see it that fast, and I think that's one of the reasons I would recommend everyone to go diving, because it's definitely going to make you more aware of that.
Un pericol major pe care l-am aflat de la localnici este distrugerea recifelor de corali, afectate puternic de încălzirea globală. Locuitorii din Maldive și-ar putea pierde chiar casele din cauza acestei crize climatice de care nu sunt răspunzători. Singura speranță vine de la speciile de coral din adâncuri care, prepoziționate lângă cele afectate și aflate la mică distanță de suprafața apei, l-ar putea salva.
Is the coral in danger, or are the reef threatened? Yes, of course they are. They are threatened here as in any other places in the world. Because of the changing climate, you can see it, it's really real, especially when you go underwater, and if you see the change over the decade, it's changed quite a bit since I started diving, and you can also see damage and more often reoccurring event of coral bleaching, which we actually have at the moment, which is very, very, very sad to see. So yes, the reefs are still quite healthy, but they're definitely very, very under threat at the moment from human activity, sadly. Coral bleaching this year, it's definitely more visible here for me since I'm in the water every day. And it happened so suddenly. We had warm temperatures for a really long time, and you could literally see corals getting less and less color every day. So it's a big change from, for example, April to May. And that's really, really saddening and very concerning as well.
Yeah, and coming from someone who doesn't dive as, or doesn't have as much experience as Laura, I've only been diving for the past 2 years. I didn't think that it would be that significant or that obvious. But unfortunately, just with the year that I've been here in the Maldives, I've seen a significant change in the color and the bleaching of corals, unfortunately, which is very sad. So it is definitely something. It is definitely, it's not a myth. There is coral bleaching, and there is, the climate change is affecting the life of the corals, unfortunately.
We have also a lot of guests coming back to the Maldives over the past sometimes 20, 25 years, 10 years, 15 years, and they also see that change. They see that the reefs are not as healthy, they are not as rich as they used to be, and obviously there's a lot of reasons for that.
We've associated corals with fish, so fish have a tendency of hiding in the corals, and they live around the corals, and there's a whole ecosystem with fish and corals. And obviously, if we destroy the corals, or if we lose all those corals, well, obviously the fish won't be able to thrive or live or even survive. So if there's no corals, unfortunately, there's no fish.
It's a mermaid. Hello.
Din fața laptopului pare foarte simplu să faci scuba diving. Nu toți turiștii au curajul să se scufunde în apa cea fără de sfârșit. De exemplu, eu. Las partea asta frumoasă, subacvatică, pe umerii soțului meu, care de-abia așteaptă să plonjeze în apă.
Anytime I felt endangered underwater was probably because of other humans. Never because of the fish or sharks, or yes, you often think that, oh my god, I'm diving with sharks and they're gonna attack me and something's gonna happen, but mostly I would be afraid of people in the water. They can do some amazing things. Like trying to hold on to you and get you underwater, or
inflating their jacket underwater.
Putting themselves in danger more. Really than us, but you can see some amazing things. But in terms of the marine life, absolutely not. Most of the times when you dive, you always stay away from any underwater creatures, and they leave you alone. They mind their own business. So no, not really. Although, yeah, no, not really. You? Your tiger shark
I got close
experience?
to a tiger shark experience, but to be honest, I had never felt, well, I mean, I was obviously scared, but the shark didn't attack me. It just went and did his path underwater, and we didn't have a terrible experience.
One of the amazing stories that we had here in Rasur during our stay in the Maldives is the freeing of a manta ray. So this was absolutely beautiful. Manta rays are one of the most intelligent fish in the water. They have the biggest brain from all the fish. And we saw one approaching us on the dive side, and it was tangled in a fishing line. So we tried to approach her and take that line off, but obviously she was scared and then just swam away. So the next day we went to the dive site, and we were actually diving together and with our friend. And we were like gearing up, and I was saying to Philippe, and I was like, let's take a knife because, you know, maybe we will see the same manta, because it was obviously asking for help. And then he was like...
I told her, it would make a great story, but I don't think we're going to see the manta again. Come on, I mean, what are the odds, you know?
Yeah, and then we get in the water, and obviously the dive was really amazing, and we just cruise along. And again, the same situation. The manta just started to approach us from the deep. And then one of our dive master, Adil, he's like really good with his knives and underwater knives and everything. He literally reached her, he grabbed her, cut the line off, and then she just like waved and just swam away from us. So they're so smart that they will hear the divers and they will hear our bubbles and they will come for help.
Omul și viețuitoarele și-au disputat întotdeauna supremația. Din această înfruntare, omul a ieșit mereu învingător, dar a exagerat cu ocuparea teritoriilor de pe uscat și din adâncuri. Prietenii mei, Laura și Filip, întâlnesc în fiecare zi dovezi ale interacțiunii oamenilor cu vietățile subacvatice.
What is really important for people to understand is when they come to the places like Maldives, they have to be really careful about the environment that they're going into. Obviously, there is a lot of places that are trying to make the best to advertise their location or to entertain their guests, for example. So you will see a lot of things like feeding sharks or feeding rays just to attract those species so you can get beautiful pictures or on Instagram or great videos. And that's really not something that you should support because it messes up with the ecosystem. The ecosystems here are so beautiful. You really don't need that extra booster to see those creatures and to see the sharks and to see the fish. Just go out snorkeling and you can really see it in a natural environment when they're behaving naturally. And that's way more rewarding than just having someone feeding it in front of your eyes.
If you feed the sharks, what you don't realize is that we're actually completely changing their feeding pattern. And whenever we're just simply throwing dead fish in the water, well, basically, why would the shark be hunting for a real fish when they can just come and start getting free food, which is absolutely normal. I mean, it's way easier for them to just grab free food instead of actually hunting. So by doing that habit of feeding them constantly, well, they sort of with time lose their survival instinct, and basically they don't learn how to hunt by themselves, and that can just completely change their feeding habit. So we don't want that.
Yeah. It also makes them associate food with humans, and this is when actually it's potentially dangerous. And usually when you hear about sharks attacks, these are the places where the sharks are used to being fed because they come closer to the shore. They don't have to go out on the reef to chase the fish. They come closer to the shore where people are usually swimming or just being in the water. And then, obviously, if they're being fed, you're putting yourself more at risk that they're going to attack humans because they associate you with food. It can take as little as 3 days to become a open water diver, which is essentially a first level, and it's like your first certification. It can take obviously way longer than that. It just depends where you're doing your course. To become a dive instructor, you need minimum 6 months as a diver, so you need to have 6 months before you started your diving adventure, and you have to have minimum 100 dives, which is actually not that much when you think of it. I would definitely recommend more before you're starting to teach people. But it's not really complicated. It's relatively straightforward. Depends where you do it. It can take longer or shorter amount of time, but that would be the prerequisites to become an instructor.
Am fost foarte curioasă să aflu un top al celor mai spectaculoase locuri unde se poate face scuba diving. Laura și Filip ne-au propus câteva destinații rămase aproape de sufletul lor, datorită lumii fabuloase în care au întâlnit mii și mii de bancuri de pești care defilau liniștit la doar câțiva metri de ei.
Other places we can go for scuba diving, I would say, so there's definitely a lot of places in Asia. So Thailand would be a destination. Indonesia is also very nice to go diving. Philippines is also nice for diving. But then there's also Central America, so Mexico, for example, is very nice for diving. Costa Rica is also apparently very nice. I've never been to Costa Rica, unfortunately, but that's definitely part of my bucket list. But why do we recommend diving with a dive instructor or a dive guide in general? For many reasons. For example, if you're going to a tropical destination, obviously you don't know the dive sites, you don't know the area, you don't know how the currents can be. It could be strong currents, you don't know where you're actually going. And so all of these factors, obviously you want to make sure that diving could be a risk if you don't know exactly where you're going or what you're doing.
Haideți să facem scuba diving împreună. You can be the change.